Hello, my name is Gary, and what I'd like to do by means of this video is to demonstrate to you how to fit the speaker covers that I make for the Linn series, the older Linn series of loudspeakers. So we're talking about the Cayley, the Caber, the Celtic, the Nexus and the Toucan. They also fit the Kiosa, which is not such a popular speaker. Okay, so I sell these on eBay. If you order them and pay for them, this is what you'll get through the post, a little cardboard box. Inside we have your fitting instructions, and you also get a guarantee. I guarantee the covers only for 12 months. Then you'll get your little packet of covers, you get your invoice, and then the covers. If you've ordered the O-rings as well, you may already have them, you may not need them. If you order them as well, they will come packed in between the two covers in the packet. Okay, so that's what comes through the post. So, how do we fit them? Well, first thing we need to do is remove the old ones. Now, as you probably noticed, there is absolutely nothing wrong with these covers. They're perfectly good, but I don't have a set of old damaged covers to demonstrate, so we're going to imagine that these are old damaged covers. How do you remove them? Very simple. Finger and thumb on the corner, pinch it tight and pull and lift. The cover comes off and it brings the O-ring out of the groove with it. Okay, so take the O-ring out of the way, lift the cover off, and there you are, the cover's out of the way. The speaker I'm demonstrating here is the Cayley, and the reason I've chosen that one is because there's a slight issue with fitting the O-ring to the Cayley, which I need to demonstrate, and that is quite simply that the space at the bottom where it fits to your Q-stone base is quite small, particularly in the inside edge. So what you need to do, and I'm not going to do this because I've already done it, so just imagine if you turn the speaker upside down on its and put it on its top on a mat, if you're on a tiled floor like I am, and just undo the 4 nuts that hold the base to the speaker so that it's loose. And then what you need to do is just twist the speaker to one side so that you make that gap big enough to remove the O-ring without damaging it. And then you'll see that this one's much smaller, far too small. So if you twist it again, you make the gap bigger and you can let it out. Okay. It's not so much for taking the old one off, but you certainly need to do that for putting the new one on. And this is partly why I don't guarantee O-rings, because if you don't do this, you will very likely damage them. So to fit the O-ring first, we locate the join where the two ends are glued together, and that goes at the bottom. So again, we've made that space bigger. We fit the O-ring through that gap and under the speaker, then move it this way so the gap's big enough, and we put that in there. Okay, so then lift it up and put it out of the way. If you have cabers with Q-stone bases, you don't need to do this, because the caber is a narrower speaker and that gap at the bottom is perfectly big enough for the O-ring to go through without damage. If you have Celtics, you don't need to do this, because on the Celtic, and I don't know the reason for this, this is Linn's design, for the Celtic the O-ring fits into this groove. So the O-ring only fits around the top panel. Of course, if you have Toucans, they are bookshelf speakers and there are no bases, so there's no problem there either. Okay, so now let's fit the cover. And what we need to do again with the cover is locate the join in the elastic, which is here. You see where it overlaps, that raw edge. And we have corner seams, which you can see there. What we need to do then is put the join in the gap, lining up the seams with the corners of the panel, lift the cover up to the top. Again, place the seams over the corners and just ease that seam into the gap so that it's no longer visible. Okay, so now you'll notice the cover's fitted, but it's very loose and baggy. We don't want that. This is why we need O-rings. Take a ruler or a credit card or the blunt end handle of a spoon or a fork, anything like that, but not something sharp, and just push that elastic into the groove, like so. On all sides. So as you can see, it now fits better, but we still have a slight bagginess and we still have a slight puckering around the edge. It's most prominent on this one, on this corner. But what also happens is the elastic doesn't always go properly into the groove. So this is why we need the O-ring. So if we place the O-ring over the groove and just press it in gently, avoid the temptation to slide your fingers down because you'll bunch up the O-ring and it won't look so tidy. So just press it in gently with your fingers all the way round. And there we are, the job's done. So now the speaker's fitted, the seams don't show, the edges are all nice and crisp, and there's no bagginess at the front. Something else I need to point out with regard to my speaker is I've had the upgraded tweeters fitted, so there is a bump in the front. And that's because the upgraded tweeters stick out more than the originals. Don't worry about that. If you have original tweeters on your Kaylee, that won't happen. It's just something that happens with the upgraded ones. But fortunately, the fabric I use to make these covers is not as shiny, and so that bump doesn't tend to show up anywhere near as much as it would if we had originals fitted. Okay, so that's how we do the Kaylee, the Caber, or the Celtic speaker. Obviously with the Celtic, as we said, the O-ring goes around the middle. If you have the toucan, fit the cover first, then put the O-ring on afterwards. The same with the Celtic. And then you should be good to go. What I'm going to do now is demonstrate how to fit the nexus, because that is very different. So we'll leave that there for now. I'll get everything set up and we'll come back to show you how to do that. So now we're going to show you how to fit the speaker cover to the Nexus loudspeaker that Linn make. As you'll notice, this one isn't a complete speaker. It's a cabinet that I bought so that I could develop a cover that fits it, because this one is more tricky. The reason it's more tricky is that this speaker does not have O-rings to hold the cover in place, as we demonstrated on the Kaylee earlier. You can't fit O-rings because the gap, this front panel, is not wood, and there's a huge cavity in there. If you fit an O-ring, it just disappears and does nothing. So these speakers covers are much more difficult to make. They have to be very accurately cut to size, and the elastic has to be stretched to exactly the right tension, or they just won't work. So they're much trickier to make. But I have managed to do it. If you order them, this is what you'll get. 2 covers in your plastic, just as you saw earlier, in a little cardboard box. The basic principle of fitting is exactly the same. You locate the join in the elastic and the seams. We fit them onto the cover, onto the speaker rather, stretch the elastic up and over, and then slide the seams so that they disappear into the gap. Okay. But now you see we've got this puckering and we've got this bagginess. like we had with the others. But there's no O-rings to correct that. So we have to basically just jiggle it around and maneuver it till it looks right. And it can take a long time, but they will settle down with time and they will look good. Okay, so basically just fiddle around with them. Get your ruler, as we did with the other speakers, to just push the elastic into the gap. That's a good place to start. And what I do find with these is sliding your hand up and down on this speaker cover really does help. Again, push that elastic into the groove with you and slide it up and down. And for some reason that elastic is not wanting to disappear properly. There we are, we've got it now. Okay. So there we are. You can see now the bagginess has gone, the crinkles have gone, and this is probably why Linn didn't make these to have O-rings. I don't know, but it is much fussier, this one, and you do have to persevere with it, but you can eventually get rid of the crinkles if you persevere, and with time it will settle down and look better. So there we are, there's the Nexus. So that concludes the video. That explains how to fit all the covers, and I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you understand it, and I hope you get great pleasure from the covers if you buy them from me.